Our next topic here is about the muscular system. So when we're talking about the muscular system, this is now going to work together along with the skeletal system to create movement. And we will be discussing about what these muscles are specifically and how they are named, and as well as how they are going to work. And this is one example right over here. So this is how the muscles are going to ultimately create movements, the process, and we will discuss this as we go on with our lecture here. So our next slide here over here shows us now the muscular system and what the function is. So when we're talking about the muscles have several functions, and of course main function would be for movement, right? We are able to move because the muscles contract, allowing us to once again create movement. So also, not only that we can physically move utilizing our muscles, it is also responsible for movement of materials within an organism, like the blood, for example. Okay? So the blood is basically going through the vascular system throughout the body because of the help of the muscles. Also food. So the food that we consume actually goes through our intestines, again with the help of the muscles. So movement of the entire organism, us basically, and also movement of blood, food, for example, within us. So that's what we have here. So what are these muscles here? So we have three types of muscles that is going to accomplish these types of different movements right over here. So first, let's take a look at the types of muscles. So three types of muscles right over here, muscle tissues. You have the smooth, the cardiac, and you have the skeletal muscles. These, the cells, right, specifically, when we talk about the muscles, are called muscle fibers. So remember in the very beginning when we were talking about the cells, and if this is a cell, for example, over here, this is a nucleus of the cell, and then you have different organs within it. So the mitochondria here, for example, you have a lysosome right over here, you have a peroxisome right over here, right, and so on and so forth. So these are a cell. So once again, we talked about this in the very beginning of our lecture series. So the cell here now, when it refers to the skeletal muscle, right, or when it refers to the muscular system itself, this is now called your muscle fibers. So muscle fibers, this is the same thing as saying a cell. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at these three different types of muscles right here. And the first one here is a smooth muscle. So what is a smooth muscle? So specifically, the smooth muscle will have fibers. Okay, fibers that are, so there it is, right? Muscle fibers. The fibers are shaped like cylinders, okay, with pointed ends. They are uninucleated, so only one nucleus. I'm emphasizing this because another muscle that we're going to talk about later on have multinucleated, or have multiple nucleus in them. So spindle shape, right? So shaped like cylinders with pointed ends. So as you can see it over here, for example, so this is one of the muscles. There goes the pointed end right there on one end, and this is another one right here. So pointy ends. And there goes your single nucleus right here in the middle, right here. And here is another one right over here. Okay? And the nucleus in this one is not showing, but I'm just emphasizing here about the pointed ends. So that is your cylinders with pointed ends, okay? And they are involuntary. So what do we mean by involuntary? We have no control over this. Okay, you just cannot control the smooth muscles. So this is under your autonomic nervous system, your ANS, autonomic nervous system, and controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So involuntary. Again, I'm emphasizing this because one of the muscles that we're going to talk about later on, you have actual control over it. How are they going to be arranged? So they are arranged in parallel lines, forming sheets, and they are not striated, so non-striated. So as you can see over here, they are now arranged in parallel lines. So this would be the parallel lines right over here, now forming sheets. So if I would redraw it here, for example, so here is one of the muscle cell, here's another one of the muscle cells, so here is another one right over here, and then we have one right over here, one right over here. You guys get the idea, right? And then as it stacks on top of each other, now it's creating this sheet of muscle cells. All right, so that's what we have right here. So sheets of muscle cells. So arranged in parallel lines, forming sheets. Located in the walls of hollow internal organs. So where do we find these muscles here? So now we can find them within the walls of hollow internal organs such as blood vessels, okay, and can cause these walls to actually contract. So if this is a blood vessel right over here, for example, now we have these muscle cells right here. So I'm just emphasizing it. So now this would be the walls of the muscle cells right over here. And once again, they are going to contract, and when they contract, and now they are going to actually become smaller. The lumen of the blood vessel now becomes smaller. So this is now the new lumen right over here when these contracts. So once again, located in the walls of hollow internal organs, the only hollow internal organs that will not have smooth muscle is the heart. Okay, so please keep that in mind. And again, we'll talk about the heart as we go on here. So the next one over here, it can sustain prolonged contractions and does not fatigue easily. So it can contract for a long time and it will not get tired basically. So fatigue, this is tired. Okay, so when they contract for a long period of time, they do not fatigue. Compare it to other muscles that we're going to be talking about as we go on here. All right, so that is our smooth muscles. So here is now the figure that I've been referencing into with regards to the smooth muscle. So specifically, once again, smooth muscles found in the hollow internal organs, like your intestines, right over here, as an example. So take note, it is involuntary, right over here. It has no striations. So please keep this in mind. And we'll talk more about this one as we go on as well. So function in movement of substances in the lumens of the body. Once again, found in the blood vessel walls and walls of your digestive tracts. All right, so that is the smooth muscle. Continue on here with our next slide. This is now the cardiac muscle. So we just finished the smooth muscle. Now we'll talk about the cardiac muscle. So this is the second one. So where do we find these muscles here? So the cardiac muscles are only found one place and one place only, and that is in your heart. Okay, so the wall of the heart is made out of your cardiac muscles. They also have fibers, once again, just like the smooth muscle here, uninucleated, just like the smooth muscle, but now these are striated, unlike the smooth muscle that is non-striated. And their shape, tubular in shape. They are no longer spindle-like shape with tapered ends. So they are branched, okay, and interlocked at what is known as your intercalated discs. So this right here, intercalated disc, is unique to your cardiac muscle cells. Okay, and I'll emphasize this in a bit on this figure right over here. So they are branched once again, and they interlock, contain gap junctions. So do you still remember the junctions? So the gap junctions here, this would be basically a hole right next to one cell to the other. These gap junctions here will permit contractions to spread through the heart wall itself. So as the muscles of the heart contract, they are going to be synchronous. And this synchronization of this muscle contraction is brought about by these gap junctions right over here. Right. So let's take a look at the figure right over here. So they are striated. So I don't know if you can see it clearly here, how you have the dark light. So I'll emphasize this one right over here. So if this would be the tubular shape cardiac muscle cell right over here, okay, and again they are branched, so it would be branching right over here, okay. Here's the branch of the other one right over here, and you could see dark, light, okay, in between, dark, light, dark, okay, light, dark. So this is what is known as your striations. So these are the striations right here, and we will see what brings about striations later on through our lecture here. So striations right here, right? So another one over here that is unique would be the intercalated disc. So we could see it right over here. This is your intercalated disc right there, another intercalated disc right there, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are your intercalated discs. So I'll just put it something like this here. So this would be an intercalated disc right there, another intercalated disc right over there. Okay, so they are in between the dark light striations. All right, so once again, intercalated discs, it contains gap junctions permitting the spread throughout the heart wall. They need to relax completely between contractions, preventing fatigue. So because of this relaxation between contraction, the heart muscles does not fatigue. Okay? Contraction, okay, when the heart muscle contracts, is rhythmic, occurs without nervous stimulation, and again, this is also involuntary, just like the smooth muscle. So take note, occurs without nervous stimulation. So what do we mean by that? So if you have ever seen those Hollywood movies, for example, right, where let's say a vampire rip somebody's heart out, right, and now they're looking at the heart on their hands, and the heart actually is contracting, right? So if you have seen those movies before and the heart is contracting, that is actually not a Hollywood fiction, but rather it's reality. Because when the heart is removed from the chest, it can still contract because it does not need nervous stimulation. And we will see later on also why is that so when we talk more closely about the cardiac muscles. All right, so that is your cardiac muscles. The next slide here. So just a little bit of the text right over here. So just the cardiac muscles showing us that it is branching. They are striated, right? Each with single nucleus, just like the smooth muscle, right? Occurs in the wall of the heart and function. Sorry, we didn't mention about the function yet. It has one function, and that is to pump blood throughout the body. Okay, and once again, it is involuntary. Next slide here now shows us the skeletal muscles. So this is now the third and the last of the three types of muscles. And these skeletal muscles over here, they have fibers that are tubular, just like the cardiac muscle cells, but now they are multinucleated. Okay, they have multiple nucleus. Also, they are striated, just like heart muscle, but these are more heavily striated. Okay, so heavily striated compared to the heart muscle. Okay, so make up skeletal muscles. So these are not the skeletal muscles that are going to be attached to the skeleton. Okay, so let's say this is a bone right over here, and this is a muscle right over here. Okay, so this is a muscle, and this muscle is going to contain a tendon, and this tendon is the one that's going to now attach to the skeletal muscle. The bones right over here. Okay, so make up skeletal muscles. So skeletal muscles attached to our skeleton. Here's the skeleton right here, for instance. Okay, they are very long, run the length of the muscle itself. Okay, it is now voluntary controlled. So you could see it over here, cylindrical in shape, right here, cylinder, and now they are heavily striated. Nucleus here, another one here, another one here. You guys get the idea. So this is the multinucleated right over here. So the text showing us here, it has striations, so striated cells with multiple nuclei. Okay, occurs in muscles that is attached to the skeleton, and this is now going to be voluntary, meaning we have control over. Okay, so remember, smooth muscle we have no control over. Heart muscle we have no control over, meaning you cannot tell your heart to stop beating. Right, so for example, you go to bed at night, you say like, oh, I'm gonna relax right now, and I'm gonna relax my heart muscles too. That's not gonna work. Okay, so on the other hand, the skeletal muscle over here, this is voluntary, so we can control this when it's going to contract, so when it's going to move. All right, so just a little bit of specifics with regards to the three muscles here. So you have the smooth muscle, so I'll put here SMM. Right, so smooth muscle, you have the cardiac muscle, okay, CAM. Okay, and then you have the skeletal muscle. So something unique with regards to each of these muscles over here. So the smooth muscle, we mentioned before, what is unique? This is non-striated. Okay, so non-striated. Okay, so of the three, this is the only muscle that is non-striated. This one is striated, so I just put here striated, as well as the skeletal muscle is striated as well. So cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle, this is striated. Smooth muscle, it's non-striated. Okay, what else is the difference here? Unique about the skeletal muscle, this is voluntary. Okay, you have a voluntary control over this muscle, so you can command this muscle to contract. These two right here over here, this is involuntary. Okay, so that's what we have right here. So involuntary. So smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, they are involuntary. The other one here that is unique with regards to the cardiac muscle, this one have the intercalated disc. So I just put here interdisc. Okay, so intercalated disc. And this one does not, this one does not. All right, so that is what's unique. So this is what I want you to remember here. So with regards to the smooth muscle, what's unique? It's striated. with regards to cardiac muscle, what's unique? It has intercalated discs. What's unique about skeletal muscle? It is voluntary, right? So let's go like this here. I'll put a box around here, okay? Non-striated. I put a circle around here, okay? Intercalated. And then I'll put a triangle around here, okay? So that's what is unique about this muscles between each other. All right, our next slide here now shows us more of the function of our skeletal muscles. So what is the skeletal muscle going to do? They are going to function for support. So what do we mean by support? Muscle contraction opposes gravity, which now allows us to remain upright. The reason why we are able to stand up is because these skeletal muscles are partially contracted all the time, allowing it to oppose gravity, allowing us once again to remain upright or to stand up. Movements of bones and other body structures, so arms, legs, eyes, and so on and so forth, we're able to move these body structures because of the skeletal muscles contracting. What else is the function here? It maintains constant body temperature. So our body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, this is due to the skeletal muscle creating heat, making heat to maintain 37 degrees Celsius, which is the normal body temperature for homeostasis. So contraction. So how does the muscle able to maintain this temperature here? Via contracting, causing ATP to break down, releasing heat, okay, which is now contributed throughout the body or distributed throughout the body. So when the muscles contract, it breaks down the ATP, which releases heat. Okay, so that's another function there. So another function here is movement of fluids in the cardiovascular and lymphatic system. Keeps blood moving in the cardiovascular veins, lymph, moving it in the lymphatic vessels. So the blood is moving throughout the veins and the blood vessels, the other blood vessels, because of the muscles, right? Also the lymph within the lymphatic vessels, it also keeps it moving as well. And we will see this more as we go on. How does the blood keeps moving through the veins using our skeletal muscles? How does the lymph, okay, the lymph fluids move within the lymphatic vessels using our skeletal muscles? So again, we will talk more about this as we go on with our lecture. Lastly, protection of internal organs and also stabilization of joints. Okay, muscle pad the bones. Okay, muscular wall of the abdomen protects our internal organs. So our abdominal muscles, for example, right, it protects our internal organs such as your intestines, your spleen, and so on and so forth. Okay, muscles, tendons hold bones together at the joints. So those are the functions of our skeletal muscle. Continue on here with our next slide. So this is now the basic structure of the skeletal muscles. So basically this is going to be talking about what the muscle looks like or how the muscle looks like, and I'll continue this in our next series of our lecture.